Okay, hello everyone, can you hear me? Just making sure, double checking. Yep, so if you can hear me, put it in the comments, or at least in the chat, that way I can see. Well, anyways, in the meantime, just a heads up, whenever you see, from now on out, this is the thumbnail for the video. If you see live in the upper right hand corner, that means there's actually a Q&A or something similar going on right now. And if it's not happening, I will just change the thumbnail to be that. That way you can quickly tell if I'm recording and you should jump on right away, or if it's a playback or coming up, that way you don't need to jump on right away. So just letting you know. Just want to double check that yes, you actually can hear me and that technology is working as it should. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for, cool, so we have some more people jumping on. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for more people to jump on, last time someone asked me a question on simple entry versus speedy entry. And so I just wanted to share you my thoughts on that now because I looked a lot more into speedy entry, and I think I'm actually going to stick with simple entry. And the reason for that being, let's change to layer 1, is that so speedy entry, you can do a lot of really cool things. And you can actually get quite fast results, especially if you have MIDI keyboard. With simple entry though, there's a couple different keyboard shortcuts that you can use that doesn't necessarily always that they don't exist in speedy entry. For instance, if you want to put in what is it? Not T for tie. It was like C for clef. No, I changed that keyboard shortcut. Let's go back up here to simple entry options. Did I change? These don't look like my keyboard shortcuts. Cool, so Odysseus, you can hear me, great. So just option A, did I really choose option A? Okay. I've been messing around with a bunch of things here just as I'm recording these videos and really trying to get I'm like in the middle of recording a whole slew of videos, so my workflow right now is completely thrown out of whack. But either way, if you're in simple entry, you can do option A or something else, and ooh, looks like I have this is a terrible start to Q&A, but it looks like I have a hidden key or something like that that's automatically pressing D. But either way, like if you have, there's several simple entry options up here that will let you add in key signatures, time signatures, articulations. You can find them at simple entry options. Where are they? Yeah, so we can add or change items articulations. You can add or change items clefs, add or change items key signatures, time signatures, expressions, all while still in simple entry. And those are things you can't do in speedy entry. So like I can do a time signature like that. It's the exact same meta tools as you normally have for articulations, key signatures, time signatures, but you can do it all without leaving speedy entry, or all without leaving simple entry. So that's okay. I'm just checking to see if anyone has commented for anything. So that's why I prefer simple entry, especially if you have a MIDI keyboard. There's almost nothing that simple entry lacks. Or there's nothing. If you have a MIDI keyboard, pretty much everything you want to do with speedy entry can be done in simple entry. The only annoying thing is actually this dialog pop-up box. What'll always come whenever you go into simple entry, like that. I just have a keyboard maestro macro that automatically deletes it, so I don't have to see that, especially since I have keyboard shortcuts for all the different note durations. The one real advantage that Speedy entry has, and let's see if I can remember how to do this, is so if you press caps lock, then you can actually use caps lock. Then you can actually use your keyboard, not a MIDI keyboard, but like an actual keyboard, to change notes and actually also change the octave you're in. You can't quite do that with simple entry. Simple entry, whenever you have a note and there's this cursor, you can still press like A, B, C, D, or E, or even G. I guess G's for a grace note, but you can still press all of them. Like I said, I'm totally not having my normal keyboard shortcuts for some of these because of all the filming. I just don't remember what stage of the process I'm in. But it won't let you select the exact octave. So, like if I were to press, we're just going to define a simple entry shortcut. We're just going to define add, and let's do, where is note A? Enter note E, yeah, that works. And a key, we're going to do Control Option O. Why not? That way it just doesn't overlap with anything else I have. So if I have an E, and you press an E, Control Option O, it'll automatically do the E that's closest to the cursor. So I can do an E up there, but it won't let me quickly switch octaves unless I actually use like Shift up or down to switch the octave. That's really the only downside with simple entry if you don't have a MIDI keyboard. The JW Lua plugin. Okay. So this is a multifaceted plugin. So first, let's just get into what exactly it is. So you can go into Finale tips, tips.nu, I'm on caps lock, and if you don't have the plugin, you can actually download it. In the download and beta versions. Where's beta versions? There it is. And then you have all the different versions for Mac and Windows. Here is a link. And then to use it, you're going to install it as you would any other JW plugin. And most people put it in a JW Lua folder, and then you can access it in JW Lua. Now there's two parts. There's one, if you already have a bunch of scripts that you have downloaded, you can add it to your menu. Or if there's the other ones, that's the development environment. So when I create scripts, like when I created for instance, like what's a good script? The conductor score script. I was actually in here writing out the actual code for it. So like local staff equals finale.fc staves, like that, etc., etc., etc. Bunch of code. You can find all the code here. Or I shouldn't say all the code, but all the classes you can use. But if you already have a script and don't want to code it, like a lot of my scripts I've already coded for you, all you have to do to use it is in the Manager tab over here, click the menu, and then New, and then it will pop up like a Finder window, or in Windows it should be whatever a normal file window is. You just find the plugin then, and hit Open, and it will add this to your list down here. And then when you restart Finale, it will automatically show up in the menu. That's why I have all these like hundreds of Lua plugins and Lua scripts here. That might not actually be the simplest explanation, but that is really the overview of what JW Lua is. It's a plugin that allows you to actually code more plugins and scripts. And then the Manager tab lets you and other users run those scripts from the menu bar. And so for instance, let's say this is a plugin made by Jake Winkler, I think I pronounced his name right, called the indeterminate or cluster scripts, right? So here, because I have it in the menu bar, I could just hit the cluster script and it would automatically turn it into an indeterminate cluster. Or JW Lua determinate cluster, and it would turn it into a determinate cluster. If you don't want to actually see those extra notes, view, and then show, and then uncheck hidden notes and rests, and that's what it'll print out as. That's a brief overview of JW Lua. Does that explain everything you're looking for? If not, I can go into more detail on that. Yeah, and you can find a bunch of scripts all over the internet. After we're done with this live stream, I'll actually just put a link to a bunch of scripts you can find in the description. That way you can find them. So is it possible to edit code of the script, for example, my scripts in JW Lua inside the plugin? Yes, it is. So if you open up a script, so open up JW Lua, and then development, and then in here you can actually open up a script. So let's open up and Finale plugins. I'm just finding JW Lua scripts, and let's pick a good plugin. Sure, let's do dash bar line. This is a really simple plugin. Now all this one does is it creates dash bar lines like that. And so actually in here, once you open it up, you can add all the code you want. One of the popular things to do is to print out statements when you're learning and debugging. So I can print out hello, like that, run the script, and it prints out hello. Or I could change it to a different kind of bar line. I don't know the other kinds of bar lines off the top of my head. There's a lot of Googling and looking at the class browser when you're coding in JW Lua. But either way, once you edit this code to your liking, you can just either save it or save as. I usually do save as because sometimes it will like to save the entire path name as the file. Easiest ways to really get started with that is either my series I did a couple months ago called Coding in JW Lua. All of that more of takes you to the fundamentals, not necessarily this framework. The next easiest way is on Finale, or not Finale's, on Yari's website. Will that take us there? No, that's the mailing list. So where is it? Not Finale tips, not. You can also look at my scripts. And some of the scripts on elbsound.studio. And if you take a look at all these scripts, and because most of these scripts here, several ones on my site, and a lot of on the actual JW Lua website, these simple scripts, some quick scripts like here, especially these quick scripts. All of them will have almost everything you need to know to figure out how to do something. And then for more complicated things, it's just grouping a bunch of these concepts together. But this does a really good job, the simple scripts, of showing you here's the code, and here's how exactly the code runs. So you can really get an idea on the framework. And if you want to know even more, there's a Facebook group for JW Lua, and there's a JW Lua mailing list. So is it possible? So do I have to load the plugin like the scripts? Okay, so the way you would download the plugin is once you download the correct plugin here, you're actually going to take this, in Mac it's going to be a bundle file, and in Windows it's going to be 3 separate files. And you're going to put it into your plugins folder. Now the plugins folder is slightly different for every single version of Finale. You can always find it by going to Finale Preferences and Folders. And then you have a plugins folder here. And you can always find that path. Put the bundle file if you're on Mac, or the 3 other files on Windows here. Restart Finale, and you will then see it in the menu bar. I made an extra subfolder in there called JW Lua, which is why for me it comes as an actual number, or as a submenu here. And then here is the JW Lua plugin. So yes, you do need to install it, and then download the scripts in the menu bar. That's the basic steps for JW Lua. But yeah, if you ever take the time to actually learn how to code in it, it is incredibly powerful. I'm in the process right now of redoing a lot of the JW staff polyphony tools. So like JW staff polyphony, and especially these that are delete and keep chord lines, like this one keeps the top line. Recreating that in Lua. So JW Lua should be chord line, keep top. That way it's just a lot faster, and I don't have to always open up this dialog box. And so I've done those. I need to reconfigure them just for one quick little bug fix. And then I'm off to splitting layers and splitting staves. The usefulness for that is, let's say I had like a chord like that, and then I wanted to split it into different staves. Apply. Why aren't you applying? Oh, it's in pairs. One line per staff. And then it will actually split it out. And similar thing, there's a merge function. I'm going to do that. Except I have to select here more staves. It's always harder to explain these things live, I've noticed. Okay, so you have macOS Sierra Italian. Okay, so yeah, so let's see, it's Finale 26. So it really should be, the folder should be under this folder here, Macintosh HD Library Application Support MakeMusic Finale 26 plugins. I don't know if Italian, it has a different name for some of these. Like plugins might be the Italian version of plugins. But either way, the folder is going to be whatever's 3 from the bottom in the preferences. I do not believe there is an Italian version of JW Lua, although you typically won't need an Italian version since most of it is, there's just not a ton of text in here to begin with. I can see though how an Italian version would help either way though. And instruments are being reset to default. Garrett and Smart Music, is there a way to toggle between Midi and Vienna ensemble? Okay. Oh, there's a couple more. So with the Finale 26 Italian, real quickly, are you talking about where you find the folder to put the plugins in, or is there an Italian version, or something else that I might be misunderstanding with that? So in the meantime, toggling between the VST and your Midi, between third party, and set all channels. Okay. So audio in general is my worst part of Finale, but here's what I do know. Then so I'm not sure how you can actually toggle back and forth between the two in the same file, but I do know that you can set one as like the priority above the other. So under MIDI and audio sound map priority, you can find all of the VSTs you have configured with Finale, and you just want to drag Vienna Ensemble to the very top. Like right now I have Note Performer at the top, that's the one I use. So when I go into Document Option, or Score Manager, you can see all the playback is in Note Performer. And again, that's because the default in MIDI audio and sound map priority is for Note Performer. Now this won't immediately update your current document. So then all you have to do is under MIDI and audio and reassign playback sounds. And basically all that does is makes these playback sounds here that are marked the exact same as whatever was at the top of your sound map priority. I hope that answered the question. If not, let me know. So for the last time, I can review the loading of the menu. Oh, Vienna Ensemble's not listed. That would probably be a question for Steve Steele, is someone I know that can answer that. He has a YouTube channel. I believe you spell it like that. And on his website, he has a contact menu that you can probably answer for that. But I know he works a lot in Vienna Ensemble. There's also several Facebook groups that can answer that, or the Finale forum. I do not know enough about Vienna Ensemble to give you an answer that I know will work. So sorry about that. So for the last time, I can review the loading of the menu. Okay. Yeah, so once you get to the plugins and you go to JW Lua, under the Manager tab, so that's the middle one, in the menu groups, then down here at the bottom there'll be New. It's going to be the top one on the right hand corner. Going to select that, and then find whatever scripts you downloaded in your normal, just find the file for the script that you downloaded, and then hit open in the menu, close, yes, close that, and then you're going to have to restart Finale. And then it will show up in the same place that your JW Lua plugin was. I hope that helps. Yeah, but how many people are here? I'm just curious, because I don't know. Yeah, and if that doesn't help, feel free to ask again. I'm still not entirely sure what you're asking, but I will keep trying my best. So we have 5 people. Cool. So, any other questions, or should I just continue to spit out random Finale stuff that I think will be helpful? You know what actually might help for the JW Lua is I do have a video. Let me go into YouTube Studio, and you can see all the fun stats. This is what YouTube looks like for me. If you don't have a YouTube channel, this is what it looks like. JW Lua. Oh, that's going to bring me up all the coding videos. I want the original video. So, here, copy link address. Here is a video that's all about installing and using JW plugin, especially getting, I believe in there it also talks about getting JW scripts into the menu bar. Another question, since today I will, while I record via Hyperscribe, other tracks will not play back. Okay, I'm sorry, but Hyperscribe is something I never use. So I literally have no idea. And the main reason why I don't use Hyperscribe is that it often requires you to be very specific with the way you're actually entering notes. It requires you, I believe, to be very specific with the rhythm. And often it does help if you have like a MIDI keyboard. And given that I don't have good piano skills, I don't ever use a MIDI keyboard with Hyperscribe to enter notes. So I'm sorry about that, but I am completely clueless and don't know how to answer that question. Wish I could help out some more, but yeah, I just have no idea. My actual instinct would have been that other tracks wouldn't play back to begin with, although that might just be from whenever I have to like re-record a voiceover in the videos. By default in Final Cut Pro, the other tracks don't play back, so that might just be I'm getting it used to audio and audio rather than playing back to music. Yeah, my main form of note entry is Simple Entry Tool. And the main reason why I do almost all my note entry in Simple Entry is that way it's just, at least for me, a simpler workflow. Anytime I can eliminate variables, it's a good thing. For instance, this is actually a decently good segue. So this document right here, the one that you often see me using in these videos, is my actual document styles document. And so all the other documents I have, all the other pieces of music I have, are based off of this one document. Like if you were to open up Document Setup Wizard, you can find that's my document styles right here. And so a couple things that can actually be really helpful that'll make your music look often more professional and more, yeah, no one's answering questions. So more professional and more, and more like you would find in an actual published work is, so a couple things, like with articulations, there are two types of accents in the accents. There are the default, which you'll find with Maestro font, which most of you probably have, and they look like this. Now, I find that Maestro font actually, in general, looks a bit wide in the angle, especially if you have like a bunch of lines of music together. It can be, let's see, a bunch of lines of music together like that. It starts to get distracting with it being so high, especially, and even if you have like a bunch of notes like that, and then have the accent on all these notes, it's a bit much for me. So I actually have it on Engraver font, which does come with Finale, and you'll see that these are a bit thinner, and often in general accidentals with Engraver font just look better. And you can change that in your document styles. Well, I'm just checking to see if anyone asks questions. That's why I'm occasionally going over there. And so if you add these two document styles, it often helps quite a bit. Similar thing with one of the largest pet peeves with Finale is the, oh, did I do that? I did that. I'm in that stage. Is the slurs. Because slurs have a very bad habit of getting a bunch of collisions with them. It's better nowadays that, you know, we have accents that actually go on the outside. I need to change that. Yeah, so I'll change that later. That's actually a holdover from before I switched over to Finale 26. But yeah, they'll often have collisions, and a lot of times they'll have collisions with notes or something like. Apparently Finale has changed quite a lot of those mistakes. I always thought it was the specific slur settings I used. But either way, these are the settings I use for the slur contour. I've just found that it, in general, makes slurs look a lot nicer by default. Feel free to steal these. And it really helps for varying lengths between short slurs and really long slurs. Engraver font, yes. That's the font I use for a lot of the articulations. So I use that for, let's see, I use that for accents, the accents with staccatos. I believe I use it for, no, I don't use it for the marcatos. Use it for accents with tenutos. I think I use it for staccato as well. Engraver font also works really well for tremolos. Just has a slightly cleaner look in my opinion. And then there's actually an entire set of engraver font articulations for double stops. I don't have them right here that you can see to show you, because like I said, I'm in the middle of recording a bunch of videos on workflow, so I'm not entirely sure where some of my scripts are right now, like that one, but it works really well because there's one specifically designed for doing double stop brackets, except that should be sideways. Here, this will be the easiest way to show you. Bezier tool for creating double stop brackets like that. Stroke, nice and thick stroke. Yeah, there's an entire articulation set for doing that with engraver font. So if you're curious, would recommend looking into that. Cool, great. Another thing that while I'm here, that I do, I might have shared a video on this in the past, I'm not entirely sure. But with expressions are prone to collisions, especially when you get into technique text and expressive text. Collisions all over the place. While it's very hard to, without some sort of scripting, fix that sort of collision, or we're going like that, or even changing the crescendo to like an expressive text dolce when they're originally on the same line. It's really hard to get rid of those without a script. There are a lot of collisions that you can avoid with the technique text and even down below. So for instance, in the categories for technique text, I use over here above staff, baseline, or entry, and that basically says, okay, so 3 steps below the staff baseline and 1 above the entry. So let's take that in 2 parts. So above the staff baseline, you'll notice that over here there are arrows. These arrows show the baselines of where default things such as expressions above the staff are going to go. Now I like technique text like mutes, divisi, things like that to go closer to the notes. And so I use -3 spaces just to get it closer, but they're always going to be 1 space above the note. So like here, if I don't know, put mute like that, you'll notice that however high or low this note goes, it's always at least 1 space above the note. And I use 1 space as opposed to something else because that, in general, it has a really clean look. It looks like it's in the correct position. Like if you were to really move in on this, you'll see that the bottom of the text is exactly 1 space, 1 ledger line above the staff. And so it just feels like it's in the right spot. Similarly, for expressive text, I have it very similar below. I actually need to change that setting. I'm finding out a whole bunch of things about the document styles from my document styles that hold over from like a year or 2 ago. Yeah, but a similar thing where they're going to be closer, but there's always going to be an offset from the entry. So like if I go back to the dolce example down here, it's always going to be below the note. Like that. Hi, Nico. So in Finale, how can I get an inverted MF? Are you talking about literally the letters are upside down? So like the equivalent of doing that? Is that what you mean by inverted MF? Or are you talking about inverted MF as in these are backwards? It's like instead of MF it's FM. Or what is... Okay, you can see I do a lot. There's the M. FN, like that. You can see I actually do quite some research sometimes before every video just to make sure what I'm saying is right. For a mirror score. So there are a couple types of mirror scores I've seen. So I'm still not exactly sure what you mean by mirror score. Because I've seen mirror scores where it's mirrored like vertically. So like to follow this example, it literally looks like that sort of MF. I've seen mirror scores where it's mirrored on like a vertical thing, so it will look like that. I've seen other mirror scores where literally the music notation's the same, but like afterwards then you'd have an MF here. So like if the mirror score is beat 3 here, same notes before and same notes after, but I don't think that's what you're asking. Either way, the best thing I could think of off the top of my head, unless you have these specific letters with the exact same orientation and you're not wanting to literally flip a picture. So if you're actually wanting to literally flip a picture like this, the best thing I could think of is to take a picture like this, screenshot it, and then use the graphics tool and basically place graphics from anywhere on your computer into here. So like for instance, I can flip it here. So like I can place the graphics for this thumbnail for this video in here. Wow, that's huge in this file. And of course you can make it smaller and all that fun stuff, but you can put pretty much anything you want in the document. I'm not exactly sure if that's what you're asking. Okay, yes, that is what you're asking. So that's what I would do, is I would take a screenshot or something like that, and then insert it as a graphic with the graphics tool. Now let's just undo and get that out of here. Cool. Hi George. For piano playback part, is it necessary to have dynamics in both the right hand and the left hand staff? Or is it enough on the top staff? Okay, so in my experience, it is enough on the top staff. So it is enough to have like dynamics there and a bass note there. That probably doesn't sound good. And then just to have like a mezzo forte up here. It usually applies to both, so even if the bass line continued like that, this would still play back at a mezzo forte. Similarly, if that was a pianissimo, this would still play back as a pianissimo. The thing I have not figured out is if, or I've not seen done really well, is if they're two different dynamics, so pianissimo up here and a mezzo forte down here, it'll typically glitch out and often play the louder one in my experience. And that's because if you look, here's not a good example. Let's add a piano staff. Keyboards, piano. So here, piano is actually considered two different staffs but part of one instrument, and I believe the dynamics are controlled at the instrument level. So even if you go to the mixer, and if staff 3 and 4 is the piano in this case, they will actually move together. And so they are considered one instrument, so one dynamic. If you need them to have different dynamics, like in this case, the best thing you can do is probably to add it as two different blank staves, like that, and then just create this group to have a brace like that, full group name, piano, edit, and then PNO, like that. That way it still looks like a piano, edit clef definition, bass clef. And that will allow you to have two different dynamics on both staves. So cool. Oh, maybe he means by having it above the staff rather than below. Okay, I see. So this is actually where you have bass lines. So I'm just going to drag this out so that way we have more visual space to see. So when I was talking about bass lines, there's bass lines above the staff, which control things like, not retardandos, I guess, yeah, we'll do this. But bass lines above the staff control things such as like rehearsal markings, retardandos, and other things that require this bass line. There's another set of bass lines for below the staff. You can find them by going to expression and then adjust below the staff, and now the arrows will come down here, where you can then take these arrows and actually move the bass line for the dynamics. Okay, so what does this do for you? First of all, it means that if you have... Okay, so the first thing is that it means that if we can adjust this bass line to go above the staff, then all these dynamics will flip up here, and we have dynamics above the staff for vocal staves, and for the rest of the staves, it's still going to be below the staff. Now, as you can see, you can't do this manually, because for some reason it won't let you do that manually. But I actually created a JW Lewis script that I will somehow get to you. It might even be on my website, called Correct Vocal Dynamics, or something along those lines. Maybe it's Vocal Dynamics? Or something, let's see, the entire score above the staff, you can do that. Alternatively, you can also create a second dynamics category that's above the baseline like that. Let's just quickly change that to there. That's above. And then move any dynamics you want over there, like we're going to move this to the new dynamics. Update fonts positioning. And then you can see now they're above. Okay, that was a very confusing explanation about it. I hope that helps and didn't confuse you too much. But yes, it's the easiest way is to go use the bass lines, and you can, I guess if I don't ever fix the script, you can just create a new dynamics category and set the vertical alignment to above baseline or entry. And that will have them all be above. And even if I were to insert new dynamics, like a forte is not even in that category. Like let's turn all these dynamics and move them all into there. So now even if I insert a new dynamic, it'll always appear above. So that's, yeah, again, that's a really long and complicated explanation. Okay. Yep, you said that. Do I have to import a chart, or can I reverse the MF? Okay, so if you mean to put it above the staff, you don't need to import anything. If you're physically wanting to reverse it like this, I believe the best way is you actually have to import a graphic. Someone might have a better way. If you do, put it in either the chats or the comments, but that's the best way I can think of. Cool, next question. How do I crescendo or decrescendo long tones with the Midi tool? Okay, Bill. I'll be honest. I've probably said this a couple times before, but in general, anything that has to do with playback is not my strong suit. I've barely worked with the Midi tool, so I'm not exactly sure how you can do it like that. However, you can crescendo and decrescendo long long tones with expressions. What do I mean by that? So let's go over here and somewhere where I haven't like butchered this document. And we're going to just change the instrument real quickly to something that has long tones. Sure, flute. And reassign playback sounds. That way it actually sounds like a flute. It's flute now? Yes, it's a flute. Okay, so you have, of course, the hairpins that you can use to crescendo or decrescendo. That's not always the best option, like, especially if you don't want anything marked, which might be why you're wanting to use the Midi tool. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you can use expressions. So you'll notice that here I have crescendo and diminuendo expressions. So if I do this, this will actually start to crescendo. Let's move these all back to the actual dynamics category. Dynamics. Yeah. Oh, that's why I was totally messing up the bar. These. This is becoming a very confusing and convoluted Q&A. I apologize for that. Okay. So cool, we have crescendo now here down below the stuff. And one of the things you'll notice in the actual definition under playback is that I have it such human playback on. So it'll automatically crescendo because the text is crescendo. Now sometimes still you might not want to show that. So what we can actually do in that case is still in the expression definition. Over here, uncheck use dynamic categories and font and click hidden. And that will hide the text. So you can still see it in light gray, but it won't ever print out and you'll still get the crescendo. I know that's not using specifically the Midi tool, but again, I'm sorry, I just don't know how to use the Midi tool. I know pretty much everything in Finale aside from playback. I shouldn't say everything. Most things in Finale aside from playback. But that's how I would do it. Okay, news on the Jetstream. So the last thing, let's real quickly pull up. So the main thing that we've been waiting on right now is, so we are adding some new features as time goes on. But there's one really complex feature, the hairpins. That there's one guy on the team named CJ. Props out to CJ. He's done a whole lot of work for the Jetstream. He's still working on this logic. So there's a couple bugs left to work out. And I think once we do that, I know I keep saying this like every time, but I think once we do that, everything will work out well. So for instance, just to show you that, oh, he might have fixed some things actually. Yeah, like this is one of those few bugs that most professionals probably don't want their hairpins to do. And so he's been working like crazy to fix that. That is, from everything I know, the main reason why we haven't actually released it. So it is mostly done. Like, as I pull it up here, you can see pretty much everything is here and it works. It is literally just those tiny things like those bugs that we really want to get out of the way. The other thing, actually, here's a question for all of you. I know there's probably only like 10 or 15 of you watching at the most. How many of you? But as some of the newer beta testers have had a real trouble installing everything and getting set up. Even though it makes sense to someone like me who's used with JWLua before. Not everyone has been able to do it really quickly and easily, even though we have instructions at jetstreamfinale.com. So, by the way, if you think any of these instructions aren't clear, feel free to tell us. But it's a question for all of you. Would you want a installer to do that for you? The pro is, or the reason to do it is it'd be a whole lot easier to get set up. Although once you get set up once, you don't have to really worry about setting it up again. The downside is it will take us a lot longer to create that installer. So if any of you have an opinion on that, please put that in the chat, because that's something that we've been talking about, of if an installer is even necessary. The other somewhat updates is because I know a lot of people like you are probably really wanting to, or probably really wanting the Jetstream. One of the things I am doing, and I'm almost done setting it up, is, so like I have all these JWLua scripts. Some of them are fairly simple, like just changing the keys at a bunch of places, like, okay, obviously, changing the key to C major won't help, but changing the key like E flat major, if you're curious, I have it set up that way. The key signatures don't show. Somewhere I had that set up, that's why you don't see it. It's just personal preference, but the script actually does work. Or like meter changes, like that. Okay, I have to remember to always select a measure when I'm doing this. There you go, so like meter changes like that, and a bunch of other stuff. I've been putting that out into... Okay, cool, an installer later on. So I've been pulling a lot of these JWLua scripts into their own JWLua scripts, and hopefully I can share them with all of you. Almost done getting that set up. That way you at least have something while we're really working on finalizing the Jetstream. Okay, so one of your scores says, error reading archive files. Do I know why? I have not seen that error before. Is this a file that you had in a previous version of Finale? Or is it just something that randomly popped up when you started, like when you open it up one day? So short answer, no. I don't know why that is, but I might be able to guess. Okay, so the other thing with the Jetstream is if you really want to try it right now, is so we are bringing on beta testers. It really helps though if you actually also give us feedback on what we can do better. But if you go down to the bottom, you can send an email to this email, and we will add you as a beta tester so you can get what we have right now. So if you really want it right now, that's what I would recommend. Again, feedback does really help us, so that would be preferable. Although, to be honest, most of the people who have signed up to beta test have not given us much feedback whatsoever. So cool, the hour seems to be mostly up, and I think I've answered most of your questions as best as I can. Again, sorry for those of you who I didn't know the answer to, but hopefully I answered them at least in a somewhat satisfactory way. And so, any last minute questions before we should close up? I guess one more question for all of you is, I guess all 6 of you, is if, because I'm thinking next time, instead of just doing a normal, finale-based Q&A of like technical things that you want to learn how to do, we do more of a what would you call it? Not an artistic Q&A, but more like a feedback. And I was thinking, like, one of the things I've seen a lot that I could probably really help you guys with is engraving the way your part looks. Even if you don't like my specific style of engraving, I could probably give you a bunch of pointers. You can't actually install Bravura on Finale. That's because Bravura is an SMUFL font, and Finale doesn't know how to read those. However, there is a Finale version of it. Let's see if I can find it real quickly. An entire forum post on this. Cool. Here's a link to that. I'll keep looking at it though, because and I think if you go to, yes, you want to go to, Elb Sound Studio, and he, I think, also somewhere has a version of Bravura that takes out a lot of the SMUFL features. That way you can use it. But this is the post that you want to look at. Pretty much anything to do with fonts in music, Jan is like the expert on. So if you can find something from him on fonts, especially if it's like a not previously installed font, or doesn't come with the package, that's what you should look at. So when he placed graphics on the score, they're misplaced in the parts. Okay, so this question will be I don't know the exact answer to, but I think it will make a really, really good video. So right after this, I will add that on my list of videos. That way I can research it and then share it to you. Okay, so the next question, how do you create a shortcut to simple entry tool for Mac? So cool, quick question for you. Are you on a Windows computer or oh, you said you're on a Mac computer, cool. So there's 3 ways you can do it, and I'll go in order of the way I would recommend. So the first way you can do it is you can do it with Finale script. So open up the Finale script palette, going to make a new script, and it's been a while since I've used Finale script, but I believe you can do menu, simple entry. And when you run this, yeah, it changes to the simple entry tool. And then you can add a keyboard shortcut for anything you want using select, and then now you just type in your keyboard shortcut. Like I use Control C. Or you can find one or something like that. And then you have your keyboard shortcut. I'm just going to delete that because I don't want that. So if you don't want to use anything outside of Finale, that's how I would do it. The second thing you can do is System Preferences. There is an entire column for keyboard shortcuts where you can create an app shortcut for this. App shortcuts. You go into here, find Finale, and then just hit plus, the name of the menu, and you want this to be the farthest in menu name. So Simple Entry has multiples, so I usually just default it to the repitch tool. And so you say repitch like that, and then shortcut, Command C or Control C, which is what I use. And then if you add that, you will see, you're not going to see it right now, but you will see there be Control C right here. Just like how there's Control Shift A here, or Control L here, or Control S there for expressions, you'll see that over here. The way I personally use it, and I'll probably make a video on this sometime, is I use a Keyboard Maestro macro. Like I said, because I'm filming Keyboard Maestro right now, it's all whacked out, so I'm not sure if I have the macro pulled up. But it basically just goes through the menu item, so you pull in the repitch tool, and then automatically just closes out of that window, so I don't have that extra tool palette up there that I don't need. So that's 3 different ways you can create a keyboard shortcut for a simple entry tool. And I have, if you want more on that, I have a video. If you go to channel videos, custom keyboard shortcuts. This is an older video, so I hope it's not outdated. Once it loads, and this, in case you don't want to go back here and watch all the way through the live stream, this walks you through all those steps. And there you go. And you can use these steps for creating a keyboard shortcut for pretty much any tool you want. So I think that's about going to wrap it up for today. Hopefully you all find this helpful. And yeah, feel free to let me know if you have any other questions either in the comments or in the comments of any video you want, and I'll be sure to answer them as quickly as possible. And as complete as possible. Yep, so yeah. You're welcome, Michael. So yeah, thank you all for coming today, and I think I am going to finish up. However I finish up, end stream.